So what we're doing here is we're going to be stenciling our background. I'm going to use this floral stencil. You can use a scroll stencil, anything. Something busy is what you want. It could even be all words and letters. I'm going to start here. I'm kind of keeping it tipped up because if I go here, I'm getting a rim. Do you see what I'm talking about there? So I'm going to move my way along, and this stencil will overlap. I have my design painted on here, transferred on. So I am just going to start. I've mixed my colors, and I'm going to start by stenciling over top of this. Now when I get into the area where my design is, I can see where my leaves are. If I get a bit on them, it's not the end of the world. They're there so I don't waste my time. I'd prefer not to have the texture of the stencil behind. It is very soft in color, but when it dries, you do see it. I don't want it to have gobs of paint. Like I say, I'll get a little bit into the design. I'm not concerned about that. I just don't want to go across my whole door and all of that. Now this is all in the pattern, in the design there, so I'll carry my way along here. And that's about that. And then I will dry it and I will line up my design on my stencil and carry on. I'm going to apply using my 3/8 Lunar Blender. I'm going to apply Spa Blue in the middle of, whoops, got a little hair there, in the middle of my door. Now I'm going to pick up Peacock Teal, and I'm just going to come from the top. Now, I'm not concerned about getting it on my door frame. And I'm just going to chisel that up and down, picking up Spa Blue as I go. So I'm going to chisel those into each other. Peacock Teal. We want to get that nice little wood grainy look happening. So that's going to happen as I chisel this dark down into this. Wipe my brush, Spa Blue again from the middle, just loosely up and down. And then I'm going to go ahead, pick up my peacock, and come from the bottom again as I bang the camera. Trying to keep it nice and close so that you get a better view of how this wood graining appears. See that scratchiness that we get from the, I'm using the brush on the width as well as I'll turn for the chisel depending on what I'm looking for. Now I'm going to pick up a little tiny bit of blue chiffon, which almost looks white when you put it on here. And just in the middle of our door, I'll just streak in that extra bit of highlight. I don't want it to go up too high. So if I'm bringing it up high, I'll wipe my brush and come back with a bit of my teal. Just in throughout. We want a nice little wood grainy looking fairy door. That looks good. I see scratchy marks. That's where I'm heading for. Looks good. Whoops, sorry about that. Looks good to me. And you see how we've got it nice and scratchy? That looks great. Okay. So now that I've got my door done, what I want to do is come along, clean up it where I had my door go over onto my piece. Now when I transferred my pattern on, I put a couple of my leaves on. I haven't done the rest of my flowers. I'm planning them to be freehand. So I'm going to mix a little bit of Mystic into this little fairy garden. So I'm going to, like I say, I cleaned up my edges. I'm going to wet coat sections because it's going to dry on me. And now that is in my pebble. I'm going to pick up a little bit of raw umber and I'm going to scratch it almost in curves. We want this, whoops, here we go again. I might have to pull that out a little bit more. Sorry guys, hope you're not dizzy. Okay, so I want to do in curves, so it's going to look like it's twisted log around. And then I'll pick up a little bit of burlap and chisel a few lighter ones. I am going to come through after with our liner. Pick up more of the base coat. I hadn't gone over here with the wet and I dragged my dark through there, but it all works. We want this scratchy appearance. And I should be giving my brush a wipe every now and then so that I can pick up stronger dark, say, or whichever of the light that I'm changing. I'm going to strengthen up my dark afterwards along the side of my door to give it a bit of depth. Now I'm going to be back with a bit of my light. That looks twisted enough for me. And then I'm going to grab a liner. And I'm going to pick up Bittersweet. And I'm just going to come through and create, pardon me, a little bit of a branch look, following some of my twists, depending where I twisted them. Some will be fat, some will be skinny. That one's a little too fat, but I know I'm going to be coming back on top with some flowers. So if I don't want it as fat as that, do you see how I can come, whoops, I can come back. I can spin you around. And then if I want, I'm going to pick up a bit of raw umber with my Bittersweet. And I'm just going to come along this side of the door. Now, Bittersweet and my Desert Turquoise. I'm going to kind of mix the two of those, just brush mix them. And I'm going to bring down some door wood grain, if we'll call it, so that it is going to give it a look of slats. We'll be transferring, I'll just loosely outline here. We will shade, but at least if I give it a little outline, it kind of crisps it off for us. This side, of course, is a lot darker. And I'm going to take some of my pebble and just loosely come in the middle. Do you see that? Just down the middle of the side of our door that we strengthened up. we can have as much little wood grainy added into this. You see, just a few fine little wiggles gives us more twisted twigs. And again, you'll see how much is going to show when we're done. And I'll finish off with a little bit, I've cleaned my liner, a little bit of the thinned highlight. So that is our burlap. So we've got pebble, raw umber, and burlap streaked to create our twigs, our twisted twig door frame, and then bittersweet as highlights. There, I think that looks pretty good. I know that a lot of this is going to end up covered, but at least it's there to start with. Whoops, alrighty. We're going to start by wet coating our stepping stones. I'll just do a couple at a time. Now I'll go back in afterwards and add black if I want to separate between them completely. I did them in the neutral gray, and then I'm just going to pat a little bit, just dab here and there, slate, and pick up the neutral again. So I'm just streaking a little of the slate, and later on I'll dry brush a little bit of color onto them as well. See how just some of it we want them to look like stepping stones, which kind of have that little bit bumpy, whoops, this guy I didn't wet coat, a little bit bumpy, but almost like a slate where they're a flat stone. Okay, now I'll take and I'll go back with graphite. If I can find where I've put it. It's very strange for me to have put things away. Okay, so I found some. I'm just going to come along the front of the stones. I've got my zero round just to create a front to my stones. Of course, it would come from the side like that. And just go around like so. See how that kind of cleaned up the edge on the stone? Pardon me. Just getting that ridge out of there. So clean those up. And I'm just going to get into that black that I talked about. I'm just going to add a little bit between. See how I'll just taper down a stone, wipe out that area there. So I'm just going back in there and filling in black to have some little fine spaces between our stones. Right, flatten and smooth out the top of that stone. Some places just a little tiny wiggly line, and other places I'm just kind of taking back a bit more. This shapes out these stones nicely. So I'm going to dry them. I'm just going to dry brush now. A little burlap here and there. In a couple of places. So there we go. So I'm going to take with my 3/4 flat shader and black brown. I'm going to come along top of the stones, and I'm just going to kind of pat my way out. And I'm just going to use my finger and kind of just tap this shading down into here. So it's kind of a, where it smudges onto there, good. Okay, so that's the shading on there. Window, I'm taking my 0 round and I put the first coat of Bittersweet across, and now I'll come down. I did Bittersweet, and now I've picked up a little bit of pebble, dirty brush, so it's just going to highlight on it. I still want to see the Bittersweet, and then I'm just going to scuff, whoops, a little scratch in the middle. This is my, I'm sure I've got that camera just a-bouncing on you. This is burlap, and it's just that little bit of highlight scratch in the middle. Cleaning off my brush, and then I'm going to do the outside trim on the window. Same thing, a little heavier, a little wider stick trim. And I got you bouncing again. No happy medium if I'm trying to bring this in here. I never really like the zoom in. It never seems to give it as clear. Okay, so that's Bittersweet Dirty brush. And now the pebble. Like I say, it's still on a dirty brush. And then I'll pick up a little bit of the burlap. And I'm just going to swipe here and there, not everywhere. I got like a little, on my highlights. And I'm going to come back with a little bit of that burlap dirty brush and just add a bit more highlight back on our logs inside here. It just picks it up a little bit. And a little bit more, I'm just a thinned out, kind of nice and washy. Back over that side part to the door, just to strengthen up that shadow. And this side is just a fine line. And I think I'm going to add a couple more. You know, when we, in the very beginning, we added the lines coming through where I mixed, picked up and brush mixed Desert Turquoise and Bittersweet. And we did those lines. I'd like a few shorter ones as well. So I'm just thinning down a little bit of that brush mix. And I'll bring it up a little bit, down, just to add a little more wood grainy line in here. See the difference from one side to the next? Yeah, that helps. Just a little more wood grainy. Okay, that looks pretty good.